Welcome to Alaska Matters with Chris Story. To reach Chris, call 226-3933. 226-3933. Now, giving you something to talk about, here's Chris Story.
You know, I told you I was down at my grandfather's funeral service here a few weeks back, and it was a very touching, quiet graveside service. And, you know, a couple family members spoke up and said a few nice things and what Grandpa had meant to them and so forth. And, a few things maybe we'd learned along the way from Grandpa. What about Grandpa? A young gal stood up in the back, and she had quietly entered, and nobody had really seen her enter our area, and she quietly said, "I'd like to say a few words." Her name was Cindy, and she had befriended my grandfather several years before he passed, and was a neighbor in his little neighborhood there, and probably, 25 years old, and Grandpa was 88 years old, and she befriended him in a way that we can never repay Cindy, because after Grandma was gone, Grandpa didn't have any friends nearby and was really lonely. Well, Cindy took an interest in him, and she arrived at the service not really knowing any of us very well, and we were coming from thousands of miles away and several states away, Alaska being the furthest. And she said, "Do you mind if I say a few words?" And of course we said, "Absolutely, the floor is yours." And she spoke about Grandpa in a way that none of us knew. For example, she had taken time to ask Grandpa things like, for example, "What was your first toy?" I never would have thought to that. His father had hand-carved a small horse and put it on a couple little makeshift wheels, and it had a string, and he pulled it around. It's like, man, up in Tennessee, back in, 1900-something, and wow, these are just the kind of cool things that I never knew. And Cindy went on and on about Grandpa Ed in such a way that we were all just touched and moved beyond belief, and it made me think, what do I know about the people in my life? I mean, we talk to each other. You talk to people, and a lot of times it's a transaction. You get something from them, you give them something, information or how you do, and it's so perfunctory. My father-in-law was over for dinner the other night, and I said to myself, I'm going to make it a point to get to know Ray a little more. I've known him 25 years, but I could not tell you what brought him to Homer, Alaska. Well, I asked him, I said, "Ray, what brought you to Homer, Alaska?" And he said, "A job." He'd moved to Anchorage in 1969. Not a penny in his pocket. He'd done a few odd jobs up there, staying at the Y. And somebody he met on the street said, "That's it, I'm out of here. I'm out of Alaska." And Ray said, "Well, what were you doing?" And he said, "I was working in Soldovia at a cannery." Ray said, "Really? Do you think they'd hire me?" And he said, "Sure." So Ray arranged to come down to Homer, catch a plane over to the cannery in Soldovia. Well, long story short, he hitchhikes his way down to Homer, had some incredible adventures along the way, and still, to my understanding, owes 10 cents on a cup of coffee in Soldotna, but that's for the authorities to handle. I've reported it. But anyway, and he ends up driving down from Soldotna. He hitchhiked his way to Soldotna, got another ride from Soldotna to Homer in a two-seater. This is in February, by the way. A two-seater sports car with a rag top, and he crests the Baycrest Hill. And the moon was looming over the city in the spit, and Ray just said to himself, "That's it. I'm never leaving this place." And that was 1970. That was February of 1970. So I thought, man, what a cool story. And I'm telling you, there's more to that story that I'd love to get him to share it. For example, his friends in Anchorage gave him a ride from the Y out to Potter's Marsh in a Volkswagen Bug, 8 of them. 8 guys in this Volkswagen Bug to see Ray off to Potter's Marsh. That was funny. But what do I know about you? And that's today's Blackwater Bend Mind Bender. I want to know more about you. What's your Alaskan tale? I'd like to know what brought you here. If it's 6 months ago, 6 days ago, or 60 years ago, I want to know what brought you to Homer, Alaska, our cosmic hamlet by the sea. What brought you to Alaska? Email me, won't you? Story@xyz.net. Story@xyz.net. Share your story. We're going to pick from random. We're going to read these stories, and you can remain anonymous if you'd like, but we'd love to share these on air. And we're going to randomly pick one, and if you're the winner, you're going to get a Blackwater Bend coffee card. We've got 2 of them to give away. Write it down, story@xyz.net. If you're really advanced, you can send me a textual message at 299-7653. 299-7653. Otherwise, send me an email and share your story. I mean, let's not wait. Don't be bashful. Just say, hey, this is my story. I'm telling you, there's some really interesting things out there. You guys have been through a lot, in getting here. And you modern pioneers is what I call it. Even if you only got here in the 70s or 80s or 90s or 10 days ago, this is a rugged place to survive and exist. And what brought you here, I want to know. Email me your Alaskan tale, story@xyz.net. Coming up, meet the voice of Seattle radio, personality, Tami Norden. She's from Homer. You may know her or remember her as Tami Kosch. Well, she's going to be here, and we'll also have an installment of Becoming Alaskan by Sarah in Alaska. No, not that Sarah, our Homer's own Sarah. That and more coming up right here on Alaska Matters.
Spring has arrived, and it's time to make plans to get that parking lot cleaned up. Gregoire Construction is taking orders now for parking lot sand sweeping. Gregoire Construction has the right equipment, and beginning this May, will professionally clean your parking lot with sweeping and water. Call and make your appointment today at 235-1522. That's 235-1522. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Gregoire Construction.
Oh, no. I'm out of water. No problem. Call More and More, your locally owned water supplier. 24-hour service from your locally owned water company. Tired of working with an outside corporation? Want to support local business and get better service for less? Then put More and More to work for you. 235-8837. More and More is next door. 235-8837.
After this long winter, you deserve a break. Treat yourself to the joys of Alaska this summer and let Dutch Boy Landscaping take care of your lawn and yard work. Danny and his team are ready to make your property look its best. So when you see the bay is flat calm and the fish are biting, head out on the water and know your lawn's going to look its best all summer long. Dutch Boy Landscaping. Call Danny today at 235-7140. That's Dutch Boy Landscaping at 235-7140. Dutch Boy, your lawn's best friend. You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. I'd like to introduce you to Seattle Public Radio's own Tami Kosch. You may have known her here locally as Tami Kosch, daughter, of course, of John and Nancy. She is now married, Tami Norden, but let's just refer to her as Tami Kosch. Welcome, Tami Kosch, to Alaska Matters.
Hello. I missed that view over Baycrest Hill that you were talking about earlier.
Isn't that something? Now, were you born here, Tami, in Homer?
I wasn't. In fact, my mom and dad came out there in 1970, and I was 5 years old, and that was it. They came over. It was in the daytime, saw that view, Baycrest Hill, the spit, and I think they were lost.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I feel cheated because I was born here. I didn't get to experience that, but every time I go on vacation and come home, I make it a point to come down Baycrest and just remind myself of why we're here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But what I do know is that you are not only in Seattle Public Radio right now, you spent a couple of decades in commercial radio, and you're also on transit, the transit buses around, is it Seattle or what area there are you on the bus system?
In Tacoma, I will tell you where to get on and off the bus.
I love it. I love it.
All through Tacoma bus system and the Sounder trains.
That is so cool. Now, you got your start in radio here in Homer, Alaska?
I did. I went to college at Central Washington University in Ellensburg and got my skills there. And then when I would come home in the summer and at Christmas time, I worked at K-Wave KGTL.
I love it. I love it. Did you have any unique experiences there?
Yes, it was a fantastic place to learn. Dave Webb taught me about production, Kelly Levitt and Janine. And the first day that I was on the air there, it didn't ever occur to me about males and females on the radio. Some older gentleman, he never did say his name, but he sounded like he must have known me forever. And he said, "Miss Kosch, women are not supposed to be on the radio." And so we argued for a little while, and I, in a snit, was mad for the rest of the day. But, yeah, apparently women weren't supposed to be on the radio back in the day.
Yeah, well, and you proved him wrong, I guess, huh?
I guess, yeah.
Did you know right away, I mean, outside of that little experience, did you know right away that radio was going to be your career path?
No, I first worked in a dinner theater out here in Auburn, a suburb of Seattle, for a year, and then the whole poverty thing got depressing, and I moved into radio.
The whole poverty thing, there you go. Now, did you ever work during the dinner theater? Did you ever work with anybody of note or fame?
Clayton Waggy is an Elvis impersonator that was in one of our shows. I think he's in Vegas now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's kind of cool. I had an experience with a friend of mine here. Her brother was in theater in Seattle, and he came up to visit, and they were painting in my ceramic shop, and we were teaching pottery and all that stuff, and he said he was on his way to D.C. to work in the Shakespearean production house back there, something with a guy named, he was playing Samuel Clemens. He was playing, I talk about this guy all the time. Help me out here. Anyway, a very famous guy. He was in Dirty Harry. He was in a lot of different things, but I finally recognized him from Designing Women. And anyway, so I said, well, here, take some pottery with you to give to this guy, and I didn't know who he was, but I figured, well, what the heck. As it turns out, he had not only, he took the pottery back there, Paul took the pottery and gave it to him, and he said, it was such an icebreaker. It worked so well because Hal Holbrook was his name. Hal Holbrook had been to Homer. He had been fishing in the Homer fishing hole and out on a charter boat, and he loved Homer, and he loved getting that pottery. And I still have a picture of Hal Holbrook holding my pottery, but I thought that was pretty cool, little Seattle-Alaska connection.
Yes.
Now, have you, let's go back to your radio career. Have you interviewed some famous people there in the Seattle area selling books or politicians? Talk about that.
Well, I got to talk to Howard Dean a while back. I've talked to former CIA agent Bob Baer. That Syriana was based on his life. A lot of comedians have gotten to interview Al Franken, Wanda Sykes, Mark Maron. We can't call Al Franken a comedian anymore.
That's right. That's Senator Al Franken.
Senator Al Franken. And, it's been a really fun, Louis Black was one of the funnest people to interview because he was on vacation and he called in from Hawaii, and he's such a character. He's always on a rant, so I wasn't sure if he was mad or if the interview was going well or not, but apparently it worked. And Sammy Hagar, when I worked at the Classic Rock Station, told me not to swear on the air. I thought that was pretty funny coming from the Red Rocker himself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is funny. Well, Louis Black is famous. One of my favorite lines of his is when he was discussing not finding any WMDs in Iraq. He said, "When did my government stop lying to me?" He said, "Just tell me you found them." That was great. He said, you could send some kids down to Kinko's and strap some missiles on the back of a camel and tell us, "We found them!"
Oh, yeah.
That was great. So he was really just as crazy as he is in his act. That was the real deal.
Oh, yeah, that's him.
That's funny. And Sammy Hagar, too? I mean, is he pretty rough around the edges, or was he very polite and civil?
Oh, no, super. Who? Sammy Hagar or Louis?
Hagar.
Oh, Hagar?
Yeah.
No, he was fine. He's Mr. Energy, though. He's ding, 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 ding.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I read a biography of Larry King, and he said the bigger they were, the nicer they were, as far as fame. That's pretty cool. Well, do you still consider yourself an Alaskan, Tammy? I mean, you've been in Seattle probably longer than you were in Alaska, but is there any part of you that says, yeah, I'm Alaskan?
Oh, yeah. If there's anybody, I can smell, I don't know if this is the right word to use, smell, but I know I have a radar, a sense if there's an Alaskan in the building.
Thank you for rephrasing that. You can smell whether it's Alaskan. Yes, I prefer radar.
Radar. I can, when there's a fellow Alaskan around, I know, and I'll be like, I'll go up, my studio's downstairs, I'll go upstairs, I'll be like, is somebody here from Alaska, and there'll be a reporter or something. And, it is, I definitely consider myself an Alaskan because that's just, growing up in Homer. You know what, though? People always snickered when I said I was from Homer, and I didn't understand, but the name of Homer is kind of funny because of Homer Simpson.
Right, yeah, we've skipped right past the Odyssey, the Iliad. We went to Homer Simpson. I know, that was not exactly our claim to fame we were looking for, but I guess we'll go ahead and take it.
Yeah, no, but I still, I feel very much like an Alaskan, even though I've lived in Seattle longer.
Has it opened any doors ever? I mean, has it been like an icebreaker with celebrities or people you're interviewing or for jobs? Has it ever been a point of like, oh, Alaskan, come on in?
Well, people are fascinated with Alaska just because it's not connected to the rest of the U.S. By land. Yeah, I don't know why. They either want to talk to you and get vacation tips.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a dream trip planned to Alaska. So
yeah.
It's definitely an icebreaker for sure.
Well, as an expat of Alaska and somebody who's observing what's going on in the world of all things radio, what do you make of the TV status that we've gained and the movies? I mean, Drew Barrymore's movie Big Miracle just came out, and there's one called On Frozen Ground with Nicolas Cage getting ready to be released. And every time you turn a channel, you're watching a reality show based in Alaska. What do you make of that?
I don't know. I mean, it is a fascinating land. You know, people are colorful that live in Alaska, very resilient and very entertaining. Just in general.
Yeah.
And so I think people do want to see what the lifestyle is like. And I was pretty shocked. Deadliest Catch.
Mm-hmm.
I started watching that. I mean, I knew crabbers when I was growing up, of course, but I didn't realize, how tough that work is to actually see it. And that is it was interesting and fun. So I think people are just fascinated by Alaska.
And so much so that we even, I shouldn't say we, I think it was a Learning Channel or one of those channels put on a program about Sarah Palin's hairdresser in Wasilla. It was called
I have not seen that one.
Yeah, I don't think you will again. It was called Big Hair Alaska, and I think it had like 1 or 2 episodes, and that was about it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Does it make you proud when you see this? Not the hairdressing, but these other kind of shows. When you watch it, do you kind of look and, oh, this is really awesome for us in Alaska, or is it sort of like, what's the deal?
I think it's good public relations, don't you? It gets more people thinking about Alaska and where their food comes from.
Yeah.
I'm demanding. I'll be in there and Fred Meyer going, did this crab come from Alaska?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. We were over in Seward a while back. This has been about 3 years ago. We mini vacation. We call it a staycation in Seward. We'll go over there and stay for a couple of days, and you get treated like a tourist, and it's nice. And so one time we were sitting at a restaurant overlooking the harbor, and they said they had local steamers on the menu. And I said, well, what do you mean local? And they said, well, they come from the Kachemak Bay. And I said, give me a plate of those as quick as possible. And they brought these yellowish, dingy green, smooth-shelled steamer clams over in a bowl of murky water. And I said, what is this? And she said, oh, these are clams from the Kachemak Bay. And I said, that's interesting. I said, I hailed from the Kachemak Bay. I've lived there all my life, and I've never seen a clam look like this. And she said, just 1 minute. They came back a little bit later and said, actually, sir, I apologize. We've run out of Kachemak Bay clams. These are actually from China.
Oh.
Yeah. That's, I guess, I don't know what bay it was from, but, man, they were bad. There's like little wads of chewing gum stuck in But that's it. From Alaska, we know good seafood, don't we? I mean, you can't fool you.
Most definitely.
Well, what's the image you hold in your head when you think about Alaska? You talked about Baycrest and the Spit, but when you think of Alaska and your years here, what image is conjured up in your mind?
It's a nature, of course, all the things. But when I was going to school there, the population wasn't quite as big. Like cut it in half in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So pretty much everything revolved. It seemed like my world and a lot of people's worlds revolved around school. So not only was it your classes, but it was all the basketball games on Friday night and that. And the football team first came in during my years in high school. And so it was just neat how the whole community was focused on the school and that. And it's just a real sense of a good place to grow up. You had a lot of fun, a lot of adventures because of the beaches and all that and the four-wheelers and that. But yet people were very involved. I mean, like, I would never mouth off to anybody's parents. Like, if Mrs. Harris said, Tammy, shouldn't you be in school? I would get my butt back to school.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Right now, ma'am. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I guess times have changed then.
Well, yeah, I don't think I would say that to any teenager here in Seattle. It's 11 o'clock. Shouldn't you?
They're strapped. What'd you say? Nothing. Never mind. Go about your business. That's one thing about Seattle. I mean, I know what you meant when you said you could smell Alaskans, but when we were on the streets of Seattle one day, it occurred to me, I've never seen so many panhandlers in my life. Of course, I did grow up in Homer, and I've been to a few cities, but is there an inordinate amount of panhandlers in Seattle, or is that, and I'm going back 10 years now. It's been 10 years since I've been there, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think there are. It's quite an issue there, the homelessness, and I think that's part of a big city. And actually, some of them, it's their gig. I mean, they go back to their apartment, but they go bum at Pike Place Market. Oh, yeah, I got that experience for sure. Well, now, listen, before I let you go, talk about what you're doing now. You're with Public Radio, and what's your gig there? KUOW. I'm on the KUOW2 radio station. We are like Fresh Air and Talk of the Nation, and I'm the local host for those. So I'll tell you where the roads are messed up, what the weather's doing, try to keep the station on the air, that sort of thing. Yeah. I remember one time you were visiting your mom and dad here, and your dad was still at Story Real Estate with us, who we missed very much, by the way. Send him back. And he had a couple listings, and he wanted you to do the voice work for our verbal tours, which is just a cool feature on our website. And you agreed. I was like thrilled that you were willing to do that on your vacation. And so you had the scripts your dad had typed up, and you were in here recording away in my office. And I looked in. I peeked into the smoked glass window, and I peeked in only to see the computer was not connected to the mixing board and the mic. And I came in and I was like, hey, Tammy, can we get you to do that one more time? Let me just connect that. Hey, it's been a pleasure. I would love to check in with you again and find out what's happening in Seattle. My guest, Tami Kosch, otherwise known as Tammy Norden, the voice of Public Radio in Seattle. Thank you so much, Tammy. It's been a real treat. It was nice visiting. Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much. Don't you go anywhere. We've got Sarah becoming Alaskan when we come back right here on Alaska Matters.
Panoramic heights, spectacular ocean and mountain views, including volcanoes and incredible sunsets. Live outside of town, but less than 10 minutes from Homer. Affordable land for your dream home. These lots are priced to sell. Owners will finance, and so will First National Bank Alaska. Call Deborah at Bay Realty at 235-6183 for more information today. 235-6183, and enjoy the privacy and quiet life this wonderful subdivision offers. Or how about 52 acres next door? Celebrate nature. Set amid the rolling hills, peace and privacy can be yours on this 52-acre estate. Live well on this beautiful parcel. Moose, bear, and other wildlife are here to greet you. Come home to a secluded estate, away from the world, but within driving distance to everything. Urban farmers and ranchers will find this a true delight. Call Deborah Lysick at Bay Realty at 235-6183. When you need results, Bay Realty works.
On the road to Anchorage the other day, in the distance, yes, I could see the bright lights of Blackwater Bend Espresso. While my gas tank was full, I was running on empty. Blackwater Bend Espresso, just what I needed. Along with my Black Mancino, which is a quad shot Americano in a 16-ounce glass, without any cream, just like God intended it. I also got a ham and cheese croissant. I'm telling you, that was the highlight of my trip. Blackwater Bend Espresso, never leave Homer without it.
Hi, folks. Jackie Ray here for the Caribou Family Restaurant. The Caribou Family Restaurant wants you to remember how happy you were at Thanksgiving, past Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day, Valentine's Day, how happy you are with the service, how happy you were with the highest quantity of food, more than you can eat every day at the Caribou Family Restaurant, how happy you were with the quality of food, how happy you were with the prices for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In fact, the Caribou Family Restaurant wants you to remember each and every time you hear or see the word happy, how happy you were with sumptuous prime rib on Friday and Saturday nights, breakfast any time of the day or night. So if you want to be happy again, stop by the Caribou Family Restaurant and be happy every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Lake Street and Pioneer Drive in downtown Homer. Check it out. Be happy every day at the Caribou Family Restaurant, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. See you here, 235-5148. Orders to go.
Speaking of Sammy Hagar, here's a little Van Halen, courtesy of Tim White. You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story. Thank you so much for hanging around with us. We've been talking with Tami Kosch. She's a voice of radio in Seattle and also on the transit system in Tacoma. That is so cool. She's got a series of voices, and I don't know where she learned it, if she just trained herself or what, but she actually can go into these different tones, and it sounds, I kid you not, it sounds just like you're at the airport, and that voice comes over the PA, and it sounds almost computerized. I mean, she can go into that, then she can go into her street talk where she's giving you the weather, and she's kind of Joe Cool and a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyway, really admire her, just a great gal. And it's time now for Sarah Richardson, Becoming Alaskan.
There are no gloves on this earth thick enough to handle the stinky, furry, gelatinous mass of dead critter that was dropped at my back door yesterday. How did it get there, you wonder? It was a gift. A gift from my dog. I knew he was up to something yesterday when he missed his lunchtime kitchen patrol and didn't come in for his afternoon nap. Judging by the look of that guy with his dirty nose and paws, I'm betting the snow melted from his super secret cache and he was hard at work digging up treasure. My dog Milton really likes to bury his valuables. He buries his toys under blankets and pillows, buries critter bits beside the house, and he's even been known to hide slimy half-chewed rawhide under piles of dirty laundry. We're guessing this particular piece of gross is the hide of a moose leg that he scored late last year. The only clue is the wiry, long moose-like hairs coming off of it. We think that Milton gave it a good roll. He's covered in long, wiry hairs, and he sports the telltale slick of a dog coated in nasty. So today, instead of tackling my to-do list, I'm tackling the stink. It's off to Safeway to buy the thickest rubber gloves they sell, and then over to Homer Hounds for the smelliest dog shampoo there is. I don't care if Milton smells like fake fruit or industrial chemical. I don't care as long as he doesn't smell like decomposed moose. Of course, since I live on the bluff, I still have snow, so now I'm going to have to dig the faucet out from the 6-foot snow berm. Ugh, this gift just keeps on giving. Right now, my dog's sitting on the back porch whining to come in. I'm going to turn up the radio so I can't hear him. No matter how much that dog is on, he's just not coming in.
Becoming Alaskan with Sarah Richardson. You can find her blog at thehomernews.com, www.homernews.com. That's Sarah Richardson. Remember, we had Sarah on the program once before, and I really found it fascinating. She actually met her husband on an internet dating site. He was working in Dillingham as a dentist, which he is, and she was an ad executive in British Columbia. I think it was Vancouver, British Columbia, actually. And anyway, fascinating. And her perspective on Alaska is just unique. I've lived here all my life, but I love reading about and listening to Sarah talk about Alaska because it's unique. Plus, she says things like being Canadian. She says being doing stuff. You know, Alaskans are so generous. And I've had a front row seat. I should say I've had the privilege of having a front row seat to generosity for several years anyway, doing charity auctions, from the NRA to fundraisers for house fires and medical concerns, people moving away. Most recently, the YWAM folks were reassigned from Homer down to Wyoming, and Kevin Cooley, I believe his name was. Anyway, the hearts of a small group of people. It's amazing what can happen when you get a great group of people together and for charity. Alaskans are so generous. That is what bothered me so much about the headline, Kenai Man Indicted for Running a Charity Scam. Now, you might have seen him out in front of a local grocery store. He and his group had a deal set up for veterans. What did they call it? They called it Boxes for Heroes. Money went to the organizer, not soldiers, prosecutors allege. Well, it's pretty obvious they have enough information, basically, that they're bringing an indictment, and I think this guy's going down. But it's an amazing amount of money he was able to pilfer from you folks, $140,000 between April and October of 2011. And I looked at their group out front of a local grocery store last fall, and I just said, you know, there's just something about the way they approached me that it just felt wrong. And I'm not saying that I had more insight than all the good people that wanted to support the troops, but what I am saying is let's not discontinue being generous. Let's not let this stop us. And it's Occupy Prosperity says charity comes from the heart, not the government, and I really want that to be our story going forward, and I don't want this to get in the way of it. And that's what I wanted to bring it to your attention for. I mean, this guy may get away with it a little bit. He may move on to the next scam. It looks like maybe he's been involved in some other stuff in the past. But don't let this be a problem. We just have to be smarter about it. We have to ask the right questions, and we have to just know kind of what we're getting into. And that's all I'm going to say is Alaskans are the most generous people on Earth, and I hope we continue that. So don't forget, we do want to send you to the Blackwater Bend for free, get your espresso card for free. Simply email me your Alaskan tale. And the email address is story@xyz.net, story@xyz.net. You can also Facebook me, find me on Facebook, or send me an email message, story@xyz.net, and we'll pick your story, and you could win. Thank you, Dave Becker, for engineering the program, Dave Webb and Tim White, your executive producers. I'm Chris Story, reminding you, make it matter, because Alaska matters.